Thanks, Ida, for taking the time to meet with me today.
Sure thing, Rich. I used to be a journalist myself.
What's your name? Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Ida Bell Wells Burnett. I was born in Mississippi. I was orphaned at the age of 16 from the loss of my parents and siblings with sickness. I'm a civil rights activist and feminist.
You have done a lot, and you have an enormous legacy. Would you mind reading an excerpt of one of your most famous speeches?
The lynching record for a quarter of a century merits a thoughtful study of the American people. It presents three salient facts. First, lynching is a color-blind murder. Second, crimes against women is an excuse, not the cause. Third, it's a national crime and requires a national remedy. I'd like to move on to another part of the speech now. Why is mob murder permitted by a Christian nation? What is the cause of this awful slaughter? This question is answered almost daily. Always the same shameless falsehood that Negroes are lynched to protect womanhood.
How much of this is still true to you today?
All of it. Lynching is no longer much of an issue today, but the idea of opposing the wrongs of society is still a prevalent theme in America. In fact, I believe it's essential to the idea of the American identity.
Many would say laziness and bacon are central to the American identity. You seem to think very positively considering what you devoted a lot of your life to. Yet, doesn't your speech show a darker facet of that identity?
Part of the American reality is the discrimination of minorities. We like to say that we have a government of the people, for the people, by the people, but sometimes mob mentality is not a good thing. We don't need people taking justice into their own hands. I firmly believe that the law is the only way something as awful as lynching can be stopped. I even put them in my speech saying the only certain remedy is appeal to law. Lawbreakers must be made to know that human life is sacred and that every citizen of this country is first a citizen of the United States.
Why do you think this speech struck a chord with so many Americans?
Americans are ready to fight against what they believe is wrong. I truly believe that Americans then knew that lynching is wrong. All they needed was a push in the right direction.
So, tell me about your speech, your thought process.
My speech came in three parts. What Americans want to believe about ourselves, what Americans are, and what Americans can and must do about the hypocrisy between the two. I said, why is mob murder permitted in a Christian nation? I realized America in 2014 is not so religious, but Christianity has ideals that are very important. Thou shalt not kill, so much for that. This behavior is the epitome of hypocrisy. All I did in that particular speech was bring to light the discrepancies between American thoughts and actions by stating one and then the other. Let me read a paragraph of my speech that illustrates one particular event.
Go for it.
The Springfield, Illinois mob rioted for 2 days. The militia of the entire state was called out. 2 men were lynched, hundreds of people driven from their homes, all because a white woman said a Negro assaulted her. A mad mob went to jail, tried to lynch the victim of her charge, and then, not being able to find him, proceeded to pillage and burn the town and to lynch 2 innocent men. Later, after the police had found that the woman's charge was false, she published a retractment, and an indictment was dismissed and the intended victim discharged. But the lynched victim was dead. Hundreds were homeless, and Illinois was disgraced. I told America that I held the entire state accountable for that incident, for the entire ineffable tragedy that was the lynching age. I hold the country responsible. I told the U.S. that if they were patriotic, law-abiding citizens, anxious to punish crime promptly, impartially, and by due process of law, also to make life, liberty, and property secure against mob rule, that they need to take action and fix the mindset of Americans.
America was built on certain ideals. These are important to us and our identity as Americans. Lynching has disappointed these ideals by completely disregarding them. One ideal is the idea that everyone was created equal. The Declaration of Independence stated that certain truths are self-evident, meaning that all men are created equal. Lynching treats some groups as less equal than others. If Americans treat everyone equally, lynching cannot be allowed. Americans believe that certain rights can never be taken away, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as we state in the Declaration of Independence. You would say, and I would agree with you, that lynchers violate this principle. You said in your speech that lawbreakers must be made to know that human life is sacred and that every citizen of this country is first a citizen of the United States. The rule of law is an important part of the American identity. Rule of law means that laws were put in place for reasons, and no one is above the law. Caroline Kennedy said, "The bedrock of our democracy is the rule of law." Lynchings ignore that idea, and you said in your speech that this nation must assert itself, and the only certain remedy is an appeal to law. If America wants rule of law to prevail, it must enforce it. You mentioned in your speech how the mob in Illinois violated Articles 7 and 8 of the Bill of Rights. Article 7 is that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and Article 8 is that everybody has the right to a trial. Mobs decided, in the Illinois case and many more, that they had the right to decide guilt, and that the accused did not have the right to any trial beyond the mob's judgments. We don't want to think of ourselves as unfair. You brilliantly use the virtuous characteristics of the American identity to call for action, to remind people that a just, fair, orderly society cannot tolerate lynching.
This is Rich Bruskowski from Necromancy News, signing off.